All right, let's dive into a question that's at the very heart of Islamic theology. What happens in those first few moments right after we die? It's a journey, and we're told it begins long before the final day of resurrection. So, what happens? Well, according to Islamic tradition, the soul doesn't just, wait around in some kind of void. No, it immediately enters this transitional phase, a whole other world with its own set of rules and, you guessed it, its very first and most critical test. And the setting for all of this is a state known as barzakh. The best way to think of it is as an intermediary realm, or a barrier. It's the space the soul occupies from the moment of death all the way until the day of resurrection and the final judgment. And you really can't overstate how important this first stage is. This quote from Uthman ibn Affan, who was a close companion of the Prophet Muhammad, just frames it perfectly. The grave isn't a waiting room. It's the first station, the first checkpoint. And how you do here, well, it sets the tone for everything that's coming next. So that brings us right to the main event of our explainer, the Great Examination. This is a central part of the afterlife journey, known in Arabic as the fitna of the grave, which literally means the trial or the test. Now, this is a super important distinction to get right. We're talking about two very different things. The fitna is the test itself, the questioning that almost everyone goes through. Adab, on the other hand, is the punishment or the torment that comes after and only for those who fail the test. They are not the same thing at all. So, who's taking this test? The short answer is pretty much everyone. The whole point of this universal exam is to really separate the true, sincere believer from someone who is just going through the motions without real faith. The only exceptions explicitly mentioned in the traditions are the prophets and the martyrs. Right, and you can't have an exam without, well, examiners. In this case, there are two specific angels who are tasked with this absolutely monumental role. Their names are Munkar and Nakir, and these are the two who will appear to the deceased for this critical interrogation. So, why these names? What do they actually mean? Okay, this is fascinating. Their names themselves tell a story. Munkar and Nakir both come from an Arabic root that means to reject or to be unknown, and scholars have a few ideas why. One is that their appearance is totally unique, completely unrecognizable to us. Another popular take is that their presence is just inherently uncomfortable. You know that feeling when an exam proctor walks in? Even if you know the material, their gaze just makes you nervous? It's kind of like that. Okay, so let's walk through it. What's the actual step-by-step sequence of events that happens once a person is laid to rest? The traditions lay out a pretty clear three-step process. First, there's an event called the Dhamma, or the squeeze of the grave. Second comes the questioning by the angels Munkar and Nakir. And third, a verdict is given, instantly, and the grave itself completely transforms based on that verdict. And that first step, the squeeze, it's a rite of passage for everyone. For a believer, it's described as a brief, gentle hug. But for an unrighteous person, it's a crushing force. And to show you how universal it is, the story of Sa'd ibn Mu'adh is often told. He was a companion so beloved that the heavens reportedly shook when he died. And even he experienced this squeeze before it was released for him. It shows that nobody gets a pass. So when you hear all this, it's natural to wonder, okay, is there a cheat sheet? Is there some kind of shortcut to make sure you pass this thing? And this is where we find another really key difference. See, there are certain deeds, like reciting the chapter of the Quran called Surat al-Mulk, that are said to protect you from the punishment, the adhab. But that's not a cheat sheet for the test, the fitna. The answers to the questions aren't something you can just memorize. They have to be something you've actually lived. And that really gets to the core of it. The only way to prepare for this test is to live your life in a way that reflects the answers. It's all about sincere belief and doing good deeds. So really, the only way to pass the test is to study for the exam your entire life. Okay, the questions have been asked, the answers have been given. What happens next? Well, the outcome is immediate. The soul is set on one of two very, very different paths, and the grave itself is transformed in an instant. And we're talking about a complete 180-degree transformation. For the one who passes, the grave is said to just open up. It becomes vast and spacious, filled with light and the incredible scent of paradise. But for the one who fails, it becomes a dark, tight, crushing prison, just a small taste of what's yet to come. For the righteous, this new state is one of just profound peace. They are shown their place in paradise, and then they're told to sleep. And the analogy used is just beautiful. Sleep like a bride or groom, which just paints this picture of a deep, peaceful, happy rest, full of amazing anticipation for what's next.
And that idea that the barzakh is like a long, peaceful sleep for the righteous is echoed right in the Quran. On the day of resurrection, when they're finally woken up, their first words will be a question: who woke us up from our marqad, our place of peaceful slumber? It's like the time just passed in this serene, blissful state.
And that leaves us with this one big thought to chew on. If all of this, the squeeze, the angels, the whole examination, and the transformation of the grave, if that is just the first station, it really puts the entire journey of the hereafter into a much bigger, more serious perspective, doesn't it? It begs the real question: how does a person truly prepare not just for this first step, but for the whole incredible journey that lies beyond?